Welcome to season 2, episode number 5.
Is it? You've done well to count.
Yeah, I know.
Is that number 10?
Yes. I think that's like a golden number or like...
Double dig.
Yeah. Like real milestone.
Love that.
So here we are today. My beautiful work wife, Kate Littlejohn.
My beautiful work wife, Cara Julian.
Before we go any further, there's a couple of like big events that have happened in your world this week.
Right.
And I would like you to share them with our audience.
Let's start. It's been a really busy week.
It's too big not to share.
What happened?
Well, we're going to start with a cheeky little other podcast that you've been on.
Yes. That will be released at some point this week, not too far after this episode. I had the absolute privilege of being a guest on Evan Lucas's podcast called Exchanges with Evan Lucas, and he invited me on as a guest to exchange with him on all things business and tax and the economy. And I was in my finance and economics nerd heaven. And I really, really enjoyed our discussion. So, yeah, please tune into that when that's released this week. Go and follow Evan's podcast, Exchanges with Evan Lucas.
Is anybody that's not heard of Evan Lucas? Who is Evan Lucas?
He is, and people will understand why I respect him so deeply, because he is an economic futurist. And for anybody who thinks, what the hell does that mean? It is basically somebody who he's very big in behavioral economics and the decisions that people make and how that is going to impact the future of our economy. Fascinating. And I am so intrigued by it even more so because, you know, we're both mothers. There are next generations to come after us, believe it or not. And just, you know, really understanding what it is that we're going to be leaving for our kids. I just find every discussion I have with him so fascinating. So, yeah, incredible human being here.
And anything else that's happened this week?
Well, the other one I don't really want to share.
Well, I wondered
there is something else big that happened this week, but I'll share more when I can.
Yeah.
So watch this space.
That's exciting.
But it's been a big week. But what about you, my love? What's been happening in your world?
Oh, well, I have just been on the tools a lot lately, writing loans. How, you know, not all heroes wear capes, Kate.
You absolutely wear capes. Multiple capes. Thank you very much. And you know what? It's a good segue into what we're just about to talk about, though. But when you work in finance like we do, whenever it is rate decision week,
oh, it's a big week.
the tools heat up even more so, and rightly so. It's our privilege to be able to help people navigate whatever change happens, if any change, with the RBA. But of course, we know that this week the RBA did choose to raise the cash rate.
They did. They had a cheeky wee meeting on Tuesday.
Second rise in as many weeks. That'd be horrendous. Second rise in as many months.
So what we want to do today, and, you know, I suppose a big part of why we started this podcast and why we are 10 episodes deep is because, trying to make finance fun, but also just unpacking stuff like this and the education piece and making it easy to understand. And so it's why I think perfect opportunity to have you, Workwife, just give us a little sort of unpack, debrief of that decision and just help us understand where we're at, because there is a lot of talk in the media at the moment. And I think, you know, heard it here first. I think it'd be good for people to walk away with just that increased knowledge and, you know, I suppose confidence and understanding of what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So a few key facts, I suppose, is that the RBA made the decision to raise the cash rate by 0.25%. If you've been living under a rock, that's exactly what happened. Now, Michelle Bullock, who is the governor of the RBA, said in her press release that there's two reasons: inflation is too high and the jobs market is too tight. What I would really love to help educate people on is what those two things actually mean.
100%, because they're throwing around willy-nilly and it's hard.
We haven't broken that for a while. Nelly.
And so it's a really good base foundational understanding, I think, if, you know, explaining that, because it can get a little bit confusing. So
going like, people's household budgets are already really stretched. People are already feeling the pinch, and they're going, well, how on earth can I possibly be spending too much and causing inflation to rise? This makes no sense. So I'd really love to help for people to understand that. So, and in its simplest form, inflation is prices rising. You always want a steady rate of inflation, which is, as many people would know, but if you don't know, the target band is between 2 and 3%. That is the target rate of inflation. If prices are rising too rapidly, we're outside of that target band. If prices aren't raising enough at all, we're below that target band. And people might go, well, why is it a big deal if prices why do we want prices to rise? That doesn't make any sense. Well, then you've got no growth in the economy, and all the hard work and investment and time and effort that we put into our lives means literally nothing. No one wants to do that. So you always want a very steady, measured rate of inflation. Hence why the band is 2 to 3%.
And whose job is it to manage that?
The RBA, right? Their mandate is to make sure that that inflation remains within that target band of 2 to 3%, and that unemployment remains at a stable level.
And also important to note that they are separate from the government.
Yes, correct. They are independent. They make their decisions independently of the government. So when we're in a situation now where the RBA has been saying for quite some time that inflation is too high. That has been a very consistent narrative for some months now. What that actually means is that prices are rising too rapidly. Now, a lot of people are thinking and feeling that it's because of what is going on in the Middle East, the conflict in the Middle East, and that is why we are experiencing inflation already. The RBA's decision actually has nothing to do with that yet. So prices will always rise in the market when there is more demand for things in the market than there is supply. Demand is made up of two different types of demand, though. In its simplest form, demand is made up of what's called private demand, which is the money that you and I go out and spend. Everyday folks out in the economy. Most of us, most of the people who are, arguably really pissed off with this interest rate rise. It is also made up of what's called public demand. And public demand is the government. So the government's spending, the government's consumption. Private demand, over the last little while, private demand, being the money that you and I spend, has also increased slightly, ever so slightly. However, public demand, meaning the government's demand, meaning how much the government is spending, has increased far more than private demand. What that means is that you may or may not hear another term that's thrown out called aggregate demand. What aggregate demand is private demand plus public demand. So private demand being the money that we spend plus public demand, the money that the government spends, equals total demand. Total demand is outstripping total supply. Naturally, prices go up.
When the old supply versus demand, the 101 of economics.
Yes. We're out of kilter. We are out of kilter. We're out of kilter. So that is point number one, as to understand why the RBA is saying that inflation is too hot. Basically, demand is outstripping supply, and within demand, government demand is outstripping private demand. The second point that they make is that the jobs market is too tight. Now, what that means is, I'm going to go with a double negative here. Stay with me, everyone.
Double negative.
Unemployment is too low, which if you flip the double negative around, it means that too many people have got jobs. That's in its literal translation, that's how you would take it. The challenge that there is when you've got unemployment being low, i.e. many people have jobs, that's great. Lots of people have jobs. Wonderful. But what that does is creates more competition in the jobs market for employees. That means that if you and I, Cara, if we were to go and hire a new broker for our business, we're business owners. If we were to go and hire a new broker to join our business, in an environment where unemployment is low, the potential employees have more, quote unquote, bargaining power with us. We're likely to have to pay them more in order to attract them into our business. That then means that that employee now has more money to go and spend in the market, again, putting inflationary pressure on the market, right? So what ultimately ends up happening, though, is that private businesses like you and I, it gets to a point where we can't actually afford to pay that person that amount. And so that's where unemployment starts to shift. The market forces means that we can either afford to pay a certain level at an aggregate level, we can either afford to pay a certain level or we can't. And that's where the balance of power shifts between whether it's on the employees or the employers. So it's really important to have a level of unemployment, which sounds counterintuitive. I get that, but it's really important to have a level of unemployment so that that balance between having enough people in jobs, having the right level of competition in the market without pushing inflation too high. Now, at the moment, we have got unemployment low. And again, I could go into the fact that the government has added a whole lot of jobs and that's why unemployment is lower. We've got inflation that is too high. And again, I can say that I just talked about it, that the government has more demand than us, so they're pushing the inflation high. We're in a position where the RBA has only got that one lever to pull, and that is to either raise or lower cash rate. And in that kind of environment, they're the two key measures, amongst a whole lot of other data that they look at, but they're the two key things that makes them go, we better raise rates. We need to cool this market down a little bit.
It's a tough job.
I do not envy
Michelle?
them.
Bullock particularly.
Really, really difficult. And I mean, Evan Lucas, who I mentioned at the start of this, he describes them as having a sledgehammer to do fine art. And it really is a perfect analogy of they've literally got one mechanism to be able to go smack bang and then hope that it.
Is there any reason though that it has to be 0.25? Could it not be 0.125 or like why 0.25? Because it seems like it's like not just seems like it actually is a lot. Or could it be 0.10? Like why is it such a big chunk?
It's a good question, actually. So the 0.25 has always been sort of the typical movement, whether that is up or down. Sometimes historically we've seen interest rates go up by 0.5 or down by 0.5. We also saw it in COVID times where interest rates were getting so low that they were like, if we go by 0.25, we're going negative, right? So they started reducing by 0.1 instead. And that's why now we've got a cash rate that is not sitting at an even, 4.2, et cetera, et cetera. I think mathematically it's probably just the easy and globally appreciated figure, but it is also enough to make an impact without being, if the RBA really wanted to make an impact, they'll increase or decrease by 0.5. And they've done that in the past. But we just had a rate rise last month. To go and smack us with another 0.5 would have been pretty brutal. But before we move on, though, a couple of things that I just want to touch on is just really pointing out what I'm seeing as, I'm very active on my socials talking about this, and there's quite a lot of commentary that I always welcome debate around all of this, and there's a lot of commentary that people are saying, but a couple of common themes that I just want to clarify for people. So a lot of people are saying that the conflict in Iran has a lot to do with the RBA's decision. It does not yet, because we don't have any data flowing through. What the RBA uses is data. They don't just do it based on look and feel and all the rest of it. They have to use data. We don't have any data flowing through to their figures that they use for their decisions yet, following the conflict in Iran breaking out, which, as we know, was on the 28th of February when that first started. So that is not, but that, make no mistake, that will come in. We're already seeing, the panic buying of the petrol and all the rest of it.
It's not even that's the price of petrol. So even if there's no panic buying, even if everyone just carried on their normal every day, the price at the pump to fill up is a lot more.
Yeah,
at the end of the day.
My husband's got a big diesel truck. Like, he put $300 in and didn't even fill it up. Oh, I got way better things I could spend $300 on today. Right?
You'll be sending him off on his bike a little bit more.
I reckon. He's got two bikes. That's a really good point. Yeah. On your bike, off you go. ride it's a 40-minute drive to work for him. He can ride his bike instead. But the second thing that is, a lot of people think that, obviously Australia-wide, there's been a lot of commentary about house prices. House prices are through the roof nationally, everywhere. House prices are not included in inflation data. A couple of caveats to that, though, is that rents are, so the cost of rent is, as well as brand new constructed dwellings are, but established houses are not included in that figure. Now, that's a whole separate conversation around house prices and all the impact that that's having on the economy, of course. And that's got to do with, demand, fiscal policy around, pushing demand up. That's a whole separate conversation. But they're two that is not included in inflation data. So I just wanted to clear that up because I do get asked that question quite a bit.
That's important. And I think we want people to leave today's episode feeling, obviously more knowledgeable and more confident than they did when they first started listening, but also just making sure any misconceptions out there that, it is cleared up.
So
yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Kate.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure as always. But what needs to happen from here, I'm very active on socials about this. The government is spending more money than what they have. There needs to be some really difficult decisions, real leadership shown at all levels of government to be able to sort that out as quickly as possible, because we just don't have our backup plan anymore. And that's being shown by, us facing into this unexpected conflict in Iran now, and our government's response to that. It's a really tricky position to be in, but the reality is we're spending more than what we have. We need to fix that. But the other thing, and this is the perfect segue into what we're going to talk about next, but the other thing is that I really encourage people to, a really solid plan when it comes to your finances should be a plan that is constructed with your money crew, whether that be your broker, your financial advisor, your accountant, etc., to plan for volatility. We are in a volatile time. We don't know what is going to happen. We don't know how long the conflict is going to go on for. We don't know how long of an impact that's going to have on us. So I really encourage everybody to have a solid plan. If you don't, start making one, because we're in volatile times and clarity is the best thing that can help us when we're going through a volatile period.
Yeah, and often it's easier to put the old head in the sand.
Yeah, don't be an emu now. No, be a lion.
Be a lion.
Rah.
You take away from this show, if this is all you take away, is don't be an emu. Be a lion.
Do emus actually put their head in the sand? Have I got the right animal?
Oh, that's a good question. I just see this bum sticking up in the air, right, like with feathers on it. I'm gonna yeah, it isn't.
We'll go with it. We're gonna go with it. Don't be an emu. Don't be an emu.
So that is a good segue, obviously, because there's things that you can control in this world, and there's things that you can't control. Other than we can't control
what do you like to control?
Everything.
Oh, you're a control freak?
Well, I'm not a freak.
No, you're not a freak at all.
I'm actually, yeah, when you say that,
yeah.
100%. Like if I go away on holiday, for argument's sake,
yeah,
I'd rather just go and not plan anything. Apart from, obviously, the flight.
Yeah.
I'd love to go.
Accommodation.
No, not even the accommodation. No, I would love, if I didn't have a young daughter, like as Poppy gets older, I want an adventure trying to go and find where you're going to stay and what a cool place. I like to be able to see where I'm staying and decide where I want to stay. I love it.
Can we please go on an unplanned adventure?
Yes. Yeah. So you're right. I'm not controlling of that. There are things perhaps that, that's it. Why did I even just say I'd like to control everything? I do like to have a control of things, but there's definitely things I'm the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love to control my robot vacuum.
We've not even had a conversation about it. We're not going to do it here. There's a story behind that, right? Like she literally nearly got into a scrap at an event one night to make sure that she got this robo vacuum. So you like to control that? Yeah,
I do. I love to control that. It's my favorite thing in the world. Anyway, sorry, we digress. But darling, you have an incredible story just around the what we were talking about earlier, around having a really solid plan and reviewing things and how that can have an incredible impact on your finances. And I love this story. I can't wait to hear.
Also, just your mindset, and because there's a lot of people panicking at the moment, right? And
rightly so.
So. But I believe if you feel more in control of something, a situation, particularly one of your absolute largest financial commitments, which is your mortgage, it's going to help, right? So, at the end of the day, we can control as much as, not 100%, but we can control our mortgage. So how do we do that? Okay. I'm going to share a story of how one of my customers actually has done that. So this literally was a customer only called me probably 2 weeks ago, husband and wife. They took a long time to call me because they were actually, to be honest, a little bit embarrassed about their finances, and some of their liabilities and so forth and expenses. So they held off. That could be one reason why people hold off, but this is another sort of moral to the story is why it doesn't pay to hold off. So they came to me and we did a loan review. So just started off with, hey, Cara, just love to see where our rate sits compared to the rest of the market. So I had a look. It takes 2 minutes. It's got their basic details. We found out, so their current rate, Kate, 6.73%. What had happened is that they had a fixed rate that had expired. I think it was 4 years ago. And typically when a fixed rate comes off, it jumps to a really high variable rate. They'd not thought about it and it just had carried on. And this became their new norm, right?
Oh, I feel so awful for them, the poor things.
So looking and obviously comparing that to the rest of the market. So we're able to find a lender that we refinance with at 5.54%. So this is obviously before any of the rates will be increasing. So that's nearly 5 interest rate rises that these customers now have up their sleeve.
Wow.
So it can just get totally out of control, and it's a perfect example. These guys have spent so many years paying way more than they needed to, and obviously contributing towards the bank's billions of dollars of profits. And this is what they rely on. They're not going to call you and go, oh, hey, I see you're on a really high rate.
Just going to drop that for you.
Yeah, just going to drop that a cheeky 75 basis points.
Does my head in.
So what the story gets even better, Kate.
Stop. No, go.
Stop, go. These customers were able to consolidate $11,000 worth of high interest debt into their mortgage loan, cash out of $100,000 to make some non-structural improvements. Actually, not even improvements, but their bathrooms really, really needed some help. So they're able to consolidate the debt, 11 grand, cash out 100 grand, and still be better off with their monthly savings of $274 a month.
Now, I know you hate girl maths, but that equals free bathrooms. Like the bank's paying them for their bathrooms. How awesome.
Which is $3,288 a year. That's not to be sniffed at, that amount.
No, it's not to be sniffed at willy-nilly at all.
Let's say they decided to be a little bit strategic and pop that cheeky little $274 as an extra repayment every month onto their home loan.
Oh, stop. I know where this is going. Tell me.
They're going to save an estimated 5.5 years off their total loan term. I mean, could you get a better story than this?
Shut the front door.
And it's like...
Of your new bathrooms.
Yeah, because maybe the old bathrooms didn't have doors. That's why they need to renovate them.
5.5 years off. And literally by paying the same, if they were paying the same amount as what they're paying now, which they've been able to pay, they get new bathrooms, they're saving 5.5 years, they're free of a mortgage 5.5 years earlier. I can't even.
I know, like, yeah, these guys are just like jumping for joy.
And literally how long does it take to, one, have a look at what your rate is? Your rate probably means nothing to you. You would have no idea what's going on in the market. So be prepared. Just have that figure. And then what?
Yeah. And then call a mortgage broker like Kate or myself. Can I just say that it's not always just about refinancing to another lender. So when somebody calls us on the phone, what we do is we compare their rate with the rest of the market, right? We send through what's called a lender product comparison. So it's got like up to, 3 to 5 lenders and the rate. Yep. What a great piece of information or tool to take to your current bank and use for negotiation.
Absolutely.
First step. But second step,
let's see what give your current bank the opportunity to help you. And then second step is actually, I think there might be, you get some free bathrooms.
Some free baths. So Kate and I, this is what we do all day, every day. We're mortgage brokers, right?
We've got stories like this coming out the wazoo.
The old wazoo. Is that like a
Kazoo. I don't know what a wazoo is. They're coming out of it.
so nothing else? Get your details, your rate, know your loan amount, monthly repayments. Anyway, call Kate or myself and we can do a loan review for you. And
get you some free bathrooms out the wazoo.
At the wazoo.
Mic
or
drop
the
right there.
So this brings us to our last segment, and I think I'm going to start it by going, there are things that you can control and things that you can't control. One of the things you can't control is when Mercury slips into
retrograde. Now, Cara and I have only just learnt what Mercury in retrograde actually means. I always just thought that it was a way of saying that things just don't feel that great right now. It turns out it's an actual thing.
It is.
Now, I'm going to get my phone because I am just going to Google.
It's over there.
Oh, it's over there. I'm just going to get my phone.
Why are you doing that? How did we find out about this today? We're having lunch with
I'm having lunch with our darling
broker friend
Cobes, and we were reflecting on, the world's in a bit of turmoil right now. Things are
happening.
not feeling that great.
Yep.
And Cobes said, because Mercury's in retrograde. And we were like, oh, yeah. And then we're like, hang on.
What does that even mean?
What does that even mean?
We're like, yeah, the old Mercury in retrograde, that old chestnut. Kate's is Googling. What are you actually Googling?
What does Mercury in retrograde mean?
Okay.
Verbatim from Chatty G. Mercury in retrograde is an optical illusion where Mercury appears to move backward in its orbit, occurring 3 to 4 times yearly for circa 3 weeks.
So it takes like a step back from centre stage. It goes backstage.
Yeah.
Slips in behind.
It.
Old Mercury.
Mercury's a spicy minx. But apparently Friday the 20th of March, which is the day that we're recording right now, that's when Mercury in retrograde is just finished. If we rewind circa 3 weeks, what happened circa 3 weeks ago, Cara?
Well, I think circa 3 weeks ago plus 2 days was actually when Trump made his decision to invade.
Yep.
Is that a coincidence?
Winkydink?
Yes. I know.
I mean, it's horrific, right? It is awful, and we've got, the global impact. Not only that, but of course the people of Iran, the people of Israel, everybody who's caught up in this conflict. It's horrific. There are people who are dying. Of course, that is awful. And then the flow-on effects of all of that. And literally 3 weeks ago, when Mercury slipped behind. I don't like Mercury at all.
Yeah, I mean, I did Google that as well, and there's crazy stuff happening, like, just robots just willy-nilly just taking himself off their vacuum stand and just going rogue. But also there was a 12-year-old that missed the bus for school, so decided to drive himself to school. Instead. I mean, manual or an automatic? I don't think it's going to be a stick shift. Do they even make them anymore?
Oh, yes, they did. Did you drive a manual?
Yes.
Yes. I drove the stick too.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, no. Did you grow up on a farm?
No, I didn't grow up on it, but we have a farm. We had another property that we had the paddock basher on.
I've never driven one of them. It's actually just been, as I say stick shift, isn't that? Because that's all we had in New Zealand. I mean, look, I'm an excellent driver.
Well, now we can't bloody drive them because there's no diesel to put into them.
But not a manual. You don't have to have diesel for that.
Yeah, but
your old stick shift thing. Is that what you call stick shift?
No, but I'm saying that there's no. It doesn't matter now.
Cars
anyway. There's just cars generally. There's no.
Do you know who's actually going to be loving life is the electric bikes. Actually,
yes.
Here's a wee plug for a Bayside business.
Oh, yeah.
Dutch cargo bikes.
Oh, yes. I've seen those. They're fabulous.
Emma and Jurgen.
Yes.
Yep. That's the way to go now. Because then You're not having to rely on the price of fucking petrol. Like, honestly.
Petrol's through the roof. You know, we've got people panic buying. Who would have thought that panic buying would be something that we would experience a couple of
Again?
times in a decade, you know? Before it was you can't wipe your bum, and now it's you can't drive your car.
Yeah. What's worse?
I mean, would you lend me your jacket? I'll wipe my bum.
Why my jacket?
I don't know. It's the first thing
It's
you
really-
take off,
I'm
isn't it?
wondering whether people can actually see me.
Cara's wearing a green velvet jacket, which I love that jacket so much, but on the green velvet couch. She's camoed.
I think we've managed to cover off a segment without really even planning or preparing.
Mercury in retrograde sucks. I've just broken dick.
I
And see, Mercury has not exited retrograde yet.
What were you doing there? Why were
I
you
was trying to tighten it and it just fell off. Anyway,
righty tighty, lefty loosey?
willy-nilly up the wazoo. All right, I think that's us done.
That's us done.
Wonderful week, everybody.
Thank you for joining and listening to us.
We'll be back next time when Mercury's really gone.
Go on.